All right, guys, another quick hitter, and this is a really good one. Le'Veon Moss announced he's returning for the 2025 season via Instagram. Oh, and more than that, Armaj Reed Adams also announced that he'll be returning for the 2025 season. So first, let's talk about Le'Veon, offensive MVP this year, breakout player this year, rising star, one of the top two running backs in the conference when he was healthy. I mean, it's pretty safe to say that. I think it was Dylan Sampson and Le'Veon Moss, and then probably Jarquez Hunter. I think Le'Veon was up there and could have finished the best statistical running back in the country had he finished the season. And we felt the loss of losing a player like Le'Veon Moss. And now you get him back, and you get a full off season of work. Hopefully he's going to be healthy. We've heard time and time again, I think twice from Elko, that the injury was not as bad as it could have been given how it looked on the field. And hopefully Le'Veon Moss has a decent path to returning, because that is a factor in his comeback to form next season. But to get a weapon like that back, we're going to talk about Le'Veon first. We'll talk about Armaj a little bit, the offensive line. But then I want to kind of talk about how this team as a whole is doing a really good job of kind of recruiting players back to the squad. You've had minimal portal entries from the starting ranks on the team. Even the rotational ranks of the team have not been hit hard. I think the only two that we're really thinking about rotational-wise are TJ Shanahan and Dewberry. Doing a really good job there, so we'll talk about that in a second. But Le'Veon, when you get a player like Le'Veon Moss on your team and in your system, he's a game-changing player. Players like Le'Veon Moss are what we missed offensively this season, and you specifically missed them when he went out for the season. He's the kind of player that can just make things happen with the ball in his hand. And I know a lot of running backs are the product of just solid offensive lines and reading blocks. And that wasn't his strong suit coming into the year. His strong suit was all the other stuff. Contact balance, forward drive, unassuming speed, and I've talked about that many times. He's faster than a lot of people give him credit for. He ran sub 4.4 in high school. I'm sure it's lower, a little bit slower now that he's gained weight. But he has all the tools, and this year what he brought was that vision, was that patience, and comboed with improved O-line play for a good duration of the year. It wasn't always great, but improved O-line play this year, thanks in no small part to Coach Adam Cushing of the offensive line. And you bring that back, and you bring back, as of right now, your full trio, your running back stable, because Ruben Owens will be back. He's going to be healthy in the bowl game. He is on the bowl game depth chart. You bring back Amari Daniels, who is a solid rotational back. Obviously, you don't think Amari is a feature back. We saw the tail end of the year how that kind of affected the team. Solid piece to have in a rotation is Amari Daniels, though. He's a solid runner with the football, but he's not a feature back. But when you bring them all back, all three together, what a tandem. Now, on top of that, you have Armaj Reed Adams coming back. Now we're just a Trey Zune announcement away from getting all five offensive line starters back for the 2025 season. And I know there are mixed reviews about the O-line this year, but I think it's undeniable that they improved. And that was especially true before Chase Basantis and Le'Veon Moss went down with injury. That's when you saw it the best. That's when you saw it at its best. And it was the most evident that we had taken strides in the offensive line. I mean, shit, the Florida game was an offensive line running game masterclass. Missouri, tremendous offensive line play. Even the LSU game, you were a fantastic running team in the second half. This O-line brings back talent, but they're going to bring back chemistry, and they're going to be doing it with a great coach in the room, the aforementioned Adam Cushing. I think the last time A&M brought back five offensive line starters was the 2020 Maroon Goon season. I could be wrong there. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. But that was a group that didn't necessarily feature a bunch of superstars, but it featured chemistry, it featured maturity. And next year's offensive line is going to bring just that, plus whatever star power you would grant Armaj Reed Adams and Trey Zune, both NFL prospects. So now your offense brings back starting tandem at running back, all three, all five offensive linemen potentially. Your starting quarterback in Marcel Reed, and of course his development is a really big deal to this team's success. Your most productive wide receiver in Noah Thomas. Your youngest productive wide receiver in Terry Bussey, and one of your starting tight ends in Theo Mellenorstrom. And of course, there's a lot of work to be done in the portal. You got to add more of those playmakers like we just discussed about Le'Veon Moss, guys that can just make things happen. And they're doing that. Mario Craver, Micah Hudson are big steps in that direction. You're looking to add one or two more there. But as a floor, as a baseline, that is a hell of a canvas to work with going into 2025 offensively. This staff has done a really good job of getting players back because you go to the defensive side of the football, you bring back everything besides that defensive line. Everything. You bring back your entire secondary, and I know they took their lumps this year for sure. But to bring everybody back, and everybody knows what year two in a Mike Elko system defensively can mean. The evidence is there through his history as a DC, as a coach. There's usually a bump there, especially with the secondary. And look, there are tools in the safety room. I know they didn't finish the year strong. And there are absolutely tools in this corner room when you're starting with Des Ricks and Will Lee on the other side, and you bring back Tyreek Chappelle to play your nickel. A lot of great pieces they're bringing back. But to emphasize this point, this team has wasted no time getting Will Lee back. He could have gone pro. Getting Scooby back. Apparently he had a pro path. He had, played a lot in college. Has that pro kind of body and build. He's coming back. And then now you add Le'Veon Moss and Armaj Reed Adams back to that pool. And now we're just waiting on that Trey Zune announcement and potentially the Albert Regis announcement. He probably needs to announce he's coming back too. Although I don't think he'd be a high draft pick. I think there's a path where he could, test his luck with that. But he'll probably need to announce it too. It hasn't been a huge splash in the portal. It's been productive. But clearly, this team really values kind of that self-recruiting, bringing players back. And we're going to see a lot of young guys in this bowl game, a lot of guys next year that might find themselves in much, much elevated roles, like a Dalen Evans listed as the backup on that defensive line at defensive tackle position, like Solomon Williams listed as a backup at defensive end next year, like Ashton Bethel-Roman listed as a backup receiver in this bowl game, like Isaiah Williams, listed as a starter with an or next to his name. I'm sure Jabri will be the starter there, but he's listed right there in that room. Ernest Campbell on the depth chart now. You bring back a lot. And there are just some very key areas in the portal, just, experience holes that need to be filled, specifically on the D-line and one receiver. But you got a pretty damn good canvas going into next year. So, guys, give me your thoughts on this news. It's Le'Veon freaking Moss, guys. He's back. Best player, offensive MVP, and your quarterback, and the offensive line. That is so exciting, man. I'm so excited for the bowl game. Too bad Le'Veon can't play in it, but we're going to see Ruben Owens in the game. We're going to see some young receivers. We're going to see some young D linemen. Give me your thoughts, guys. Like and subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you soon. Gig 'em.